And that musical introduction is our way of saying good morning and welcome to another weekend here at First Unitarian Society. Actually, it's not just another weekend, it's Stewardship Weekend. And you get to hear a little more about that later this morning. Meanwhile, good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Society, where independent thinkers gather in a safe, nurturing environment to explore issues of social, spiritual, and ethical significance as we try to make a difference in this world. And speaking of things that are different in this world, I'm Steve Goldberg, a proud, enormously popular member of this congregation. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to any guests, visitors, and newcomers. If this is your first time at First Unitarian Society, I think you'll find that this is a very special place. And if you'd like to learn more about our special buildings, we invite you to join us in a guided tour of the facilities right after the service. Just come over to the windows here after the service and we'll take good care of you. And speaking of taking good care of each other, as you all know, this is the perfect time to silence those pesky electronic devices that you simply will not need during the service. And while you're taking care of that important task, let me invite you to sit back or lean forward to enjoy today's service and share my gratitude that we're holding the service indoors today instead of outdoors. But I'm sure that today's service will touch your heart, stir your spirit, and trigger one or two new thoughts. We're really glad you're here with us this morning, and I invite you now to join in a moment of centering silence so we can be fully present with each other. Please rise.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Come be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. Thank you, Linda. We were only going to do 3 verses. Great job, everybody.
Singing in that land.
Please remain standing for our opening words and the lighting of our chalice. Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts.
Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize.
Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. we begin our story again, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose.
We gather as people of all ages, of different abilities, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. We share a covenant, a direction for our shared journey, and a commitment to encourage and challenge one another in spiritual growth. We continue with the words of Lynn Cox for our chalice lighting, printed in your order of service, as together we say, "This path will ask much from us. Let us move forward with love. Let us move forward with appreciation for one another. Let us move forward knowing we were not alone. Wherever you are, whatever your gifts, you are welcome to join this journey." I invite you to turn towards each other and offer a welcome.
We're inviting the young and young at heart to come forward for some story time.
Hello! How you doing this morning?
There's
Good.
lots of space for everyone. Come on in.
Good morning, Maeve. How are ya?
Oh, I see. Can I greet your monkey? Hello.
Ho, 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 you shall see.
Your bear.
Ooh. What is the brown one? A platypus! That's pretty, I don't know if I've ever seen a platypus stuffy. And a red panda, super cool. Yeah. You have an abundance of stuffies today, which is cool because we are talking about abundance. Later on in the service, Steve over there, who did our announcements, everybody turn and say, "Hi, Steve." Hi, Steve. There you go. Steve, who did our announcements, is going to come up later once you're in class, and he's going to talk about this stewardship campaign that's kicking off this weekend. And what we're looking at this year in the stewardship campaign is this idea of all the wonderful things we have in abundance here at First Unitarian Society. And abundance is a word that means that we have so much of something. So you can think of abundance as being like a bucket that's overflowing with water, or when you're so happy that you get the giggles and you can't help but giggle and giggle and giggle and laugh out loud. That sometimes happens here during service, doesn't it?
I have abundant friends.
You have abundant friends. Awesome.
Yes, today especially we have an abundance of children. We see abundance everywhere in our world.
I see abundance
Abundance
of
of wood
wood.
is happening here. And sometimes at night, we see an abundance of stars in the sky. Or we might see an abundance of spring flowers when they actually come up sometime soon. Now, speaking of flowers, have you ever tried to count the abundance of seeds in a sunflower? There.
I tried to do that.
There are a lot. There's so many seeds. Or think about if you were on the beach right now and there was sand everywhere. There's an abundance of grains of sand.
Abundance of glass.
Oh, you're right. How about the number of blades of grass? We can't really count any right now, can we? It's out there hiding under all that snow. But how about an abundance of snowflakes. How many snowflakes do you think we have just outside in the courtyard? 1,010,000. 100 snowflakes. We haven't, I think we can all agree that this winter we have had an abundance of snowflakes.
We've gotten like 1,000 snowflakes just out there.
We also have an abundance. You know what? We also have an abundance of good things right here at First Unitarian Society. We have people who volunteer, an abundance of people who volunteer their times and talents, people who teach your classes, who share their gifts, so we can do our work here in our community. We have an abundance of learning opportunities, the classes you're in, the programs for grown-ups, lectures, and workshops galore.
How about music? We have an abundance of good music, especially when one of our choirs is singing. Can everybody turn and say, thank you?
Thank you.
Yes, we have an abundance of wonderful music. How about you all? Do you have a favorite thing that we have in abundance here at First Unitarian?
No.
Yeah.
Chalices.
Chalices. We have an abundance of chalices. They're everywhere you look, right? An abundance of windows. Yeah.
Abundance of light.
We have an abundance of light. We do. Plants. We have an abundance of people in here. How about from our adults? Paper. Our adults, what are your favorite things that we have in abundance? Kids. We have an abundance of kids.
Music.
Clothes. Coffee. How many grown-ups are grateful for the abundance of coffee? Yeah.
You know what? We also hope that you find other things as well. An abundance of friends, an abundance of love, an abundance of joy, an abundance of giggles. All of this helps us create a better world. And you know one other great thing about abundance?
What?
When you realize how wonderful your life is because of all this abundance, you feel really good about sharing it with others.
Just like those giggles that we talked about, when you get the giggles because you're so happy and that laughter just has to be shared. When we realize all the abundance of all those wonderful things we have in our lives, friends and music and coffee, when we give from that place of abundance with deep joy and gratitude, it makes sharing all the more meaningful and all the more good feeling. So we are going to rise in all the ways we do. We are going to sing you out with hymn number 1003.
This is a round. We'll sing it twice through together with no repeats, and then we'll sing it as a round with group 1 being on my left and group 2 being on my right. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we? Let's do one more time, no repeats. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we? Group 1, a start. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we? Group 2, your turn. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are... One more time, group 1. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we? Back to the beginning, one more time. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going?
So it is a new month and a new theme, and as we journey into, journey this month, which is our new theme, we will do what we have done for several months. We'll utilize the voices of our worship team. But if you have noticed, we do not do this intro exactly the same way month after month. Some of the time we utilize a couple of voices from our worship team so that we can explore with a little more depth. But very often, as today, we utilize more voices in our worship team. And that offers both an opportunity in its variety to invite you to find your own way into this theme. But just as it is important that each member of the worship team explore for themselves what it is that this theme says to them, to us personally, there is a similar invitation to each of you. You begin this time exploring how journey is a part of your life in an especially meaningful way now. And without your part of that larger puzzle that we explore together, our exploration would not be as complete, as meaningful, as diverse. And so it is a gift for us to gather together and to explore. Plus, today we inaugurate our stewardship campaign, and we honor some of the abundance of gifts in this community, not the least of which is just the fact that this place, a place of sustenance, of connection, of life-changing and life-saving work, supports us through our journey in life. As I began my own exploration, I was interested to find out that the word journey has its roots in the old French word journée, which is very often translated into some variation of the word day, a day's work, a day's travel. And that particular understanding of journey makes its way into our language in all sorts of manner. For instance, for many years, we would call a day laborer a journeyman. Or when we seek to capture the essence of an individual day, we will write in our journal. Looking at life as a journey and the idea of day being interconnected with that understanding becomes important, and with it a reminder that while we often think of journey as an invitation to think of the big picture, at its core, it invites us to be present to this time, to this day, and to ask, what part of my past do I carry forward with me into this day? And what do I wish perhaps to leave behind? How do I set my compass for the travel in this time, this place, this day, moving into my own becoming? Simone Weil reminds us as we move into an understanding of this day that the beauty of this world is the mouth of a labyrinth. And we would be foolish to not be invited by the beauty of the world into a sort of whiff of the dream in the making. And that happens in so many ways in our life. In our careers, when we find ourselves being drawn into something new and adventuresome. In our personal lives, when we find some new relationship beginning to spark some intensity. All sorts of ways in our life that newness is inviting us into beauty. But we also know that in the midst of that wonderful, beautiful invitation, we will not always experience the labyrinth as beautiful. We will find that our job, sometimes for years on end, will be a place of difficulty and testing of our patience and our endurance. Our relationships sometimes will disintegrate. Sometimes what seems beautiful as we push into it may disappoint. And all of us, again and again in our lives, in the midst of that disappointment, may feel lost. And this place is especially important in those times when we feel lost. The Reverend Eric Martinez Resley reminds us, as it happens, there is much that awaits us in our lostness, much to be excavated, examined, even exalted. In not yet knowing what will be, we are afforded the opportunity to appreciate what already is. The things hiding in plain sight. A frayed relationship, for example, may reveal a deeper need within us. An unfulfilling career may motivate us to seek out a mentor. A misstart or a misstep may remind us of our own fragile humanity and claw open our hearts to sensitize us to the suffering of others. Often in the midst of our lostness, we are most open to the power of connection and of compassion. Here, again and again, we explore that when we feel both deeply compelled by beauty and lost, we are asked to understand our lives in terms of possibility. So we come into this place, and through our weekly communal experiences of worship, in our crucial work with our children and our youth and our adults in religious education, in our small groups, in our work in social justice, all of it, we remember that again and again we need this place that deepens our spirit, that gives us the tools not only to recognize the importance of the places where we feel certain, but the power in our journey when we may feel adrift. Each of them gives us sacred possibility and an invitation to find something new. And so in that exploration, we will continue to honor and utilize, to the extent of our ability, all of our human giftedness that we share with each other in abundance. All of it. We will continue to draw from the gifts of intellect and wisdom in our services and in religious education. We will hone our ability to lean into the power of our feelings in concert with careful discernment and strengthen the emotional intelligence of our community as a whole. We will speak diligently the truth and the power of the ways that our values call us to work, act, speak for justice, equity, peace. We will seek to honor the gifts of the spirit of our bodies, in our movement, in our being, in our sexuality, in sharing the gift of this space and this planet together. And so today, we celebrate this place that seeks to reorient our journeys, to recollect our scattered thoughts into places of deeper direction and discernment that welcomes all that we are, to embolden the truth that the lostness itself is a gift in our lives, so that we may be lived into the truth of the words of Joseph Campbell, who said, "Where we had thought to travel outward, we will come to the center of our own existence. And where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world." So may it be in our journey in this time.
I'll begin this morning with a reading from the great South African leader Nelson Mandela. He writes, "I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended." Working for peace and justice has long been an integral part of my religious life and spiritual practice. So I'm excited to reflect with you on the abundance of social justice opportunities here at First Unitarian Society. Inspired by the work of a Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Richard Gilbert, we can think of social justice as having 5 pillars. The first pillar is service. This includes those hands-on activities that help others. These are easy to think of: raising money for our partner church, which, by the way, we're doing next Saturday, cooking and serving a meal at a homeless shelter, or collecting donations for the Humane Society. These acts of service can give us opportunities to build relationships with one another and grow spiritually. The second pillar is education. This helps us as a congregation understand specific social justice issues more deeply. First Friday film nights, mayoral forums, adult religious education classes. These are all excellent examples of the ways we educate ourselves about timely topics. Today's 2:00 event about the Great March of Return is another opportunity to learn about peace and justice efforts in the Middle East. The third pillar is organizing. This pillar seeks to establish grassroots partnerships in order to make changes for social improvement in regional and statewide coalitions. By partnering with Voices de la Frontera, FUS is siding with immigrant communities, and by organizing through Moses, folks have been working to improve the Dane County Jail, as well as city and county law enforcement policies. The fourth pillar is advocacy. This is about raising our voices, speaking on behalf of people or causes we stand with. For example, Wisdom's upcoming Madison Action Day on Tuesday, March 26th is a chance to engage in advocacy. Over 1,000 people from across the state are expected to gather at the state capitol to lobby representatives about important issues in the proposed state budget, including transportation and criminal justice reform. The fifth and final pillar is witness. This includes public displays of solidarity. Think of climate change rallies, the annual Pride Parade, or the Interfaith Prayer Vigil held here last fall after the shooting at Tree of Life Synagogue. This coming Wednesday, on March 6th, folks will gather for a candlelight vigil at the Social Justice Center on Willie Street to honor Tony Robinson on the 4th anniversary of his killing. All of these are examples of bearing witness. Indeed, there are an abundance of ways here at First Unitarian Society that allow us to live out our Unitarian Universalist values through service, education, organizing, advocacy, and witness. I am grateful to have fellow travelers like you together as we, in the words of Nelson Mandela, walk that long road to freedom.
The poem that the choir is singing is entitled Ode by Arthur O'Shaughnessy. It actually has 9 verses, but most of us only know either the first or the first 3. And that was the first verse plus a few other things that we threw in there for you today. The poem, the first verse I'll read to you. We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by lone sea breakers and sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers, on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. O'Shaughnessy's talking about the role of art in society, and in particular, society's future. Art, when we go to a museum, can serve as almost a cultural archive of sorts that we can peer into the past like a time machine at what we did before we came along. But those artists, like many, were not just living in their time, they were living in their future. Because artists tend to think in terms of vision. So I offer to you a new definition of artist and a new definition of art. Art, the new definition of art, anything can be art, so long as its creation required both beauty and desolation of spirit. And we're seeing an interesting new medium. Music, visual art, poetry, literature, architecture, theater, film, and on and on. Those arts have been well established, but what we have seen lately around the world has been a new form of art, the art of protest. And whether it be Facebook or graffiti or almost performance art in what you'll be listening to at 2 o'clock, the silent, nonviolent protests in the Middle East that have been largely ignored but are fascinating if you can go on and see them. It looks like art, and they are definitely envisioning their future, the future they hope for, and they're working for it. The new definition of artist that I want to put forth today: to be an artist requires sacrifice, and one of those sacrifices is to live external to society so that someone is envisioning a better one. Well, isn't it true that a politician who has no training in any art can envision the future, maybe even a better one? Sure. So that thinking, in a way, is creative, right? And if it's a better future that that person is imagining, then there is something missing. Perhaps even there is a desolation of spirit. So therefore, by this new definition of art, anybody can think artistically, including those who are working for change in our current society. Because artists build in fantasy. Artists build the future in their mind's eye. We build worlds outside the world. We build the future. The hymn we just sang, the words, "Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?" come from a painting of Paul Gauguin. He actually wrote the words on the painting itself. The painting seeks to answer those questions. And I encourage you, if you have not seen it, that is the title of the painting. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And Gauguin learned that from when he was in school from a cleric, from a priest. And even though he grew up to be rather anti-clerical himself, those questions stuck with him and resulted in a work of art. And the work of art sought to answer those very questions. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? What future do you imagine for our world, for our country, for FUS? It's Stewardship Sunday, and that means to answer those questions. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And then finally, how can we imagine best getting there?
These are the words of the Reverend Victoria Safford. She calls them a map for the journey in progress. Here is where I found my voice and chose to be brave. Here's a place where I forgave someone against my better judgment, and I survived that, and unexpectedly, amazingly, I became wiser. Here's where I was once forgiven, was ready for once in my life to receive forgiveness and to be transformed. And I survived that also. I lived to tell the tale. This is the place where I said no, more loudly than I'd thought I ever could, and everybody stared. But I said no, loudly anyway, because I knew it must be said, and those staring settled down into harmless, ineffective grumbling, and over me, they had no power. Here's a time and here's another when I laid down my fear and walked right into it, right up to my neck in that roiling water. Here's where cruelty taught me something. And here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion and knew it for the miracle it was, the requirement it is. It was a trembling time. And here much later is where I returned the blessing clumsily. It wasn't hard, but I was unaccustomed. It cycled round, and as best I could, I sent it back on out, passed the gift along. This circular motion around and around has no apparent end. Here's a place, a murky puddle, where I have stumbled more than once and fallen. I don't know yet what there is to learn there. On this site, I was outraged, and the rage sustains me still. It clarifies my seeing. And here's where something caught me, a warm breeze in late winter, birdsong in late summer. Here's where I was told that something was wrong with my eyes, that I see the world strangely, and here's where I said, yes, I know, I walk in beauty. Here is where I began to look with my own eyes and listen with my ears and sing my own song, shaky as it is. Here is where, if by surgeon's knife, my heart was opened, and here and here and here, these are the landmarks of conversion. Each one of us would be able to draw a map such as the one Victoria describes, one that has the landmarks that mark those conversion moments in our own lives, the moments of unexpected forgiveness, or overwhelming compassion, or paralyzing pain. We could create such a map ourselves with these defining life moments marked for all to see. The great student of world religions, Houston Smith, once said that we humans are nothing more than embodied souls who are undertaking spiritual journeys. And because of this, we must act on what we find. His words echo our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I would add to our principle his belief that we are called to act upon and live out what we find in our search. A crucial piece of this work is to find those spaces and places and people where you have the time and the support of others to do this work of reflection. Our small group ministry is one of the important and life-giving aspects of our life together here. Our chalice groups and exploration groups, our journey circles, are such places. What we hope is that these groups become safe places where you can reflect on your landmarks of conversion. The times when you have been surprised, loved, hurt. These are communities where you will be welcomed in and welcomed home, sustained and nurtured on your journey toward wholeness. The late Reverend Forrest Church said that to be who we are is to offer the world the greatest gift we can give. To invest our lives and all that we do with sincerity, authenticity, and deep commitment leads us into relationships with other authentic selves. And in entering into those relationships that are sacred in the true meaning of that word, we cannot help but bring our collective power to bear against the forces of injustice, hatred, and oppression. Our collective wholeness will, by definition, heal the world. We all yearn to live lives that matter. We yearn to share our vulnerabilities and our sensitivities, to offer them up to others in a spirit of acceptance and hope. In this way, we can heal ourselves and help in the repair of the world. We do this one person, one relationship, one small group at a time. And I invite you now into the giving and receiving of the morning's offering. Our outreach recipient is Journey's Mental Health, and as we talked with the kids, it feels great when we share from the abundance of our own blessings. And so we thank you for your generosity.
Well, thank you for your generosity during the offering. Thanks to our musicians and singers for their generosity. And we also want to thank those who have helped make the service run smoothly this morning. So we appreciate the generosity of David Briles, who operated the sound system so that you could hear everybody, including me. Ann Smiley for serving as our lay minister. Claire Box for greeting us as we came in from the cold this morning. Our ushers for this unruly crowd, Liza Monroe, Dick Goldberg, and Marty Hollis. Our coffee hour is being hosted and prepared as I speak by Eleni and Franz Musared. The pulpit palms that you see up here are vibrant and green because John Tews watered them this morning. Thank you, John. John Powell is our tour guide for any guests, visitors, and newcomers. That'll be a tour provided right after the service is over. And our welcome and information table is manned by John McGevna in the Commons during our fellowship hour. Just a couple announcements. The first two are musical, not that I'm going to sing them, that they're about music. And the third announcement is about the annual stewardship campaign. Music announcement number 1. The music you just heard is going to be performed in an expanded version by the Society Choir a week from today, Sunday, April 14, for our Music Sunday. And there's something else that's a week from today, sorry. I hate scripts. Let me start over. Music Sunday is going to be April 14, which happens to be a Sunday. The choir will sing Franz Schubert's classic Mass in G, and you got a taste of that already during the offertory. You are invited to join in the singing and to be one of those singers. Don't have to audition, don't have to be any good, just need to be able to move your lips. That's what... Stick to the script. If you have any questions, ask Drew Collins. The second musical announcement, I'll try to get this one right. This is a week from today, Sunday, March 10 at 3 o'clock in the Landmark Auditorium across the parking lot. And this is our annual harpsichord recital, featuring music from composers from the court of Louis XIV, or as we say in French, Louis XIV. You don't have to know French to appreciate this performance. It will include some wonderful soloists. Tickets are $20 at the door, $12 for seniors, students, and veterans. You don't have to be all three to qualify for the reduced price. That's next Sunday. This Sunday, today, we're kicking off our stewardship campaign. We used to call it the annual campaign. And I'm enormously excited about this campaign. You know, we're going through a transition period in First Unitarian Society. And transitions are an opportunity for people and organizations to show what they are made of. And as we rethought the whole process of the annual campaign, we decided that people at FUS are made of stewardship. That's what we're about. And stewardship is the collective responsibility, the shared responsibility for something bigger than ourselves. And that's what we're about here at First Unitarian Society. We heard a wonderful message for all ages today and a theme about abundance. And I want you to keep in your mind this picture of the kids who were up here hearing the message and how excited they were and energized they were with the idea of abundance. It really turned them on. And we kind of got into that same flow. So that's the flow we want for this campaign. And I'm excited to report that as we close the quiet phase of the campaign and we get a little noisier about it, we're already starting from a position of abundance because we have already received pledges greater than $330,000, which is about 1/4 of our total goal during the quiet phase. And of those who pledged early, half of them increased their pledge over last year's total, and 1/3 of them committed to a multi-year pledge so that their gift can continue into the future. So that's a new feature that we're offering this year, is the opportunity to become a sustaining steward by making a multi-year pledge instead of just 1 year at a time. Hence, no longer calling it the annual campaign, we're calling it the stewardship campaign. And thanks to you and the stewardship that some of you have already expressed and others will express over the next few weeks, thanks to that stewardship, First Unitarian Society will be able to fully fund and resource all of its religious education and youth programming so that every young person can feel valued here. Thanks to your stewardship, First Unitarian Society will be able to provide a full package of holistic family experiences and programming so that families can thrive here. And thanks to your stewardship, FUS will be able to fully fund and resource and staff all of the services and programs that enable this place to become a spiritual home across all generations. And thanks to your stewardship, FUS can become an even more effective and active voice for social and environmental justice than we already are. And thanks to your stewardship, we will be able to host numerous events, community events, in our wonderful welcoming spaces, thus deepening our community engagement while at the same time generating an ongoing revenue stream that will help support the cost of operating this enterprise that we call First Unitarian Society. And thanks to your stewardship, but not necessarily according to the script, your stewardship will enable FUS to fully leverage its world-class music program as an additional community outreach tool. So that's what abundance looks like. That's what stewardship looks like. And we're going to be taking a look at stewardship and abundance throughout the entire month of March during this stewardship campaign. And this will culminate in a family celebration on Friday evening, April 5, in this welcoming space, Friday evening, April 5, as we celebrate our successful stewardship campaign. And I'll probably prepare a song for that particular occasion. Meanwhile, we're not just going to celebrate on April 5, we're going to celebrate every week as our stewardship builds and builds. And I told you we're already starting with momentum. The quiet phase is over. It's time to get noisy about this campaign. And every week, we will award at each service, so 3 times a weekend, Saturday and 2 times on Sunday morning, a $25 gift card for Food Fight restaurants based on people who have participated in the stewardship campaign. And we have a winner for this week's. And I'm going to see what the envelope hides here. Rachel Bennett. Rachel, you here? Rachel, thank you so much. Oh, the Rachel Bennett family, come here. Here you go. Thank you. So tell your mom that if you have an empty seat at the table at one of these restaurants, I'm available. Thank you, daughter. So she's leaving. Okay, go see mom. All right. So this is what your pledge envelope looks like, except it has your name on it instead of mine. And it's your opportunity. We don't want to have to call anybody. If you have questions about how to make your pledge and you want help with the online pledge process, we have staff from FUS who will be at the table in the Commons. So look for Cheryl and Florence, and they'll help you through the process. And as I said, we're talking about abundance. And remember the looks on the faces of those kids as they sat here and they got so excited about abundance. The stewardship campaign is an opportunity for us to make sure that their future is full of abundance. So see you April 5 at the celebration, and I better get busy writing that song. Please stand for our closing hymn.
We'll sing verses 1 and 5, just 1 and 5. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way and I won't turn back. I'm on my way and I won't turn back. I'm on my way and I won't turn back. I'm on my way and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way.
May you be brave enough to expose your aching woundedness and reveal your vulnerability. May you speak your deepest truths, knowing that they will change as you do.
May you sing the music within you, composing your own melody, playing your song with all your heart.
May you paint, draw, sculpt, and sew, showing the world your vision. May you write letters, poetry, biography, slogans, graffiti, the great novel, laying bare your words to love and hate.
May you love, even though your heart breaks again and again. And until the end of your days, may your life be filled with possibilities and courage. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of a deeper wisdom, not the fire of that possibility and courage, not the warmth of human love and connection. These remain until we gather in this place again. May we take our seats again as we receive another gift of music together in worship.